Thanks everybody for joining us today. We'll give it just a minute to allow people to kind of trickle in. Um, I'm Jeremy. I'm with Savvy STR Agents Inside Sales Team. Joining us today is Rachel Kirkham in our fabulous Utah market. So we'll wait just a minute here just to make sure kind of everybody gets a chance to get in and situated. Feel free to drop your questions in the group chat and we will address them as we go. And at very least, get to them as we can at the end of the webinar. And also, if you don't mind, just kind of check in with us. Hop in there and let us know where you're viewing from today. That'd be exciting. I'd like to see where all you folks are. Give it about another minute or so. We'll dive right in. All right. I guess now's the best time than ever. Rachel, let's go ahead and kick this thing off.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm Jeremy. Today we're putting the spotlight on Utah, a market that's been generating a lot of conversation in the STR investing world, and honestly, for a good reason. We're talking about markets in and around Salt Lake City, Draper, and some of the surrounding areas that are catching investor attention right now. But Utah is also one of the more complex regulatory environments in the country. And so that's exactly why you need someone on the ground who knows exactly what's happening in real time. So today we're going to get into all that, what's working, what's not, and where the real opportunities are. So I'm joined by our Utah expert, Rachel Kirkham, who works directly with investors buying short-term rentals across Utah. Rachel, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So, Rachel, before we jump in, if you would tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you ended up specializing in this market.
Sure. Yeah. I've been doing short-term rentals for like 8 years now. We started with our own personal short-term rentals, my husband and I, and then we co-own a management company together. Our company manages about 100 units across the Wasatch Front, up
Wow.
into Idaho, down into southern Utah.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so that's my background. And then I've always had my agent license mainly to buy my own properties. And then it just fell into the niche that we're already doing. So we focus on short-term
Gotcha.
rentals only. And that's what we do. And we're all up in Utah, and that's our niche and area of expertise. And my husband is heavily involved in the government side of
Okay.
everything going on in Utah. So we get to hear all of that firsthand very quickly. But
Nice. Oh,
that's us.
very good. So definitely got your fingers on the pulse. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so for someone who's never thought about Utah as an STR market, how would you describe what draws investors to the market and guests? What can they expect to see in the Utah markets?
Yeah. So as a guest, most guests come. There's two sections of Utah. There's north and there's south, and they're completely different geographical areas. The northern part of Utah is mostly ski and mountains. So we have 10 ski hills within an hour of our international airport. The Olympics are coming back, the Winter Olympics in 2034 for the second time. So we have the city life and the mountain life in northern Utah. And then down in southern Utah, we have Red Rock National Parks. There's five national park areas down. They call it the Big Five.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's more of a driver's market, like, because the closest airport to there is Las Vegas. So people
Oh, gotcha.
like from Las Vegas or Salt Lake City. Um, but yeah, it looks very similar to Sedona. Arizona,
Mhm.
down there. But you have Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon National Park, Coral Reef National Park. Then there's Moab and the Arches, which is eastern Utah. It's not so much in the south, it's more east.
Mhm.
But yeah, people come from all over the world to drive around all of those parks.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a beautiful area. I've only been through Utah on kind of a I was on business, so I was moving kinda quickly. It's a shame I didn't get to spend more time, but definitely looking forward to getting back there. Beautiful, beautiful place. I was through the southern part, myself,
Yeah.
but, um, okay, so, yeah, when we talk about the Utah market, as you mentioned, we're really talking about several different distinct areas. Can you walk us through the key markets that you work in and what makes each one unique?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I live in Sandy, Utah, which is in northern, it's about 20 minutes outside of Salt Lake. So that's where I like to buy, and that's my little special niche. But in reality, um, in the north, Lou, on my slides, if you bring up that map, I think it's on number 6, but it's just easier to see. There's the Wasatch Front, it's the valley that Salt Lake City is in and the surrounding cities around it. So I specialize in that area. And then in southern Utah as well, mainly because I also own in southern Utah, and so we're there all the time. So there's my favorite little pockets down there as well that I specialize in. So because we own and operate in all of it, it's easy to as well be the agent for those areas. So this map of Salt Lake here, uh, as you can see, so on the left, there's the international airport. And then you've got the valley of mountains here. So Salt Lake City lies right there by the University of Utah, downtown Salt Lake City. It is literally in the mountains. It's like you fly in and you're flying into the mountains. Park City's on the other side of those mountains, but that valley area that's around Salt Lake City is where
Mhm.
I work mostly.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So, um, considering they are like two totally, well, not two, more than two, but totally different worlds all within the same state that you work within.
Mhm.
Um, I know this is going to differ from northern, southern, but what does well, I guess kind of in each market, if you don't mind, touch on it just a little bit. What does a typical guest stay look like in these markets? Like, what do you think are the main drivers to each of them, respectfully of themselves?
Yeah. So just because Northern Utah map is up, we'll go with this one. The main driver is the ski hills. So winter is our high season. There's world-class ski resorts all over the place, as you can see, based on those
Absolutely.
little pop-ups there. But not only that, our summers are actually as high as our winters, because what brings people is there's the city life. So there's concerts, sporting events. We have all of those professional teams. We have large amount of families in that area, so we get a lot of family reunions, weddings, and those type of areas as well. So the high season in northern Utah is actually summer, winter. Um, we find the summer does just as well. There's also recreation in the
Nice.
mountains in the summer. So
Okay.
on the opposite side, southern Utah, the high season is the spring and the fall. They are completely different. So if you own in both as a local investor, it's kind of nice on the cash flow because
Sounds like it.
one is low, one is high. It's because the weather is more temperate in the spring and the fall. It's not
Okay.
so cold and it's not so hot. So the big drivers there are the national parks. That's really the biggest. It's outdoor recreation, stunning views. It's the glamping life, really.
Right.
So
Nice. That sounds beautiful. Um, okay. So as far as let's just dive right into this because, I'm sure a lot of folks are kind of curious. Um, because I know a lot of investors, are very interested in Utah and want to understand, I guess, the short-term rental regulatory landscape right now. Like, how are regs allowing people to purchase and operate there? Is it very difficult or
it's difficult if you don't know someone who knows what's going on. So basically, what happened last year is the state passed a bill that allows the cities to regulate on their own, and they now can use your Airbnb listing as evidence that you're running. So whereas they could not before. So
Mhm.
we've been operating in Salt Lake City, and none of the cities could really do anything because they couldn't use the listing as evidence. Well,
Mm,
last year that changed. So
okay.
Salt Lake City is one of the most strict. It is ruthless, absolutely ruthless.
Right.
So they're not only can they use your listing, that's one part of evidence. They have to have another piece of evidence to be able to shut you down. And once they shut you down, they start finding you right away. So knowing that there are legal ways to do it, you just have to have the right zoning and the HOA and allowing it. So there's a few legal spots in Salt Lake City that you can operate. Now, if you do it legally from the beginning and you find one of those, you are ahead of the game because everybody else is getting shut down left and right. So
This
as the demand is going to increase due to the events that are coming and developments that are coming in Salt Lake, and the short-term rentals allowed or available are decreasing. So it is my thought to foresee into the future that those units that are legal are going to do very, very well really soon.
yeah,
Um,
sounds like it.
yeah. So knowing each city has its own legal landscape. Because I live here and operate in each of those cities, I have a pulse for what they can enforce, what they can't enforce, who cares to enforce and who doesn't. So everyone with their own licensure, it's you have to go city by city because it's different. There
Makes
are
sense.
legal pockets in most places. The only places I would not recommend are Provo, Utah.
Yeah,
That that one's rough, and there really isn't any legal pockets, but that would be the only one. The rest, there are legal ways or they're in conversations now. So, for example, Draper, Utah.
mhm,
I helped some people buy in Draper last year because there was no regulation whatsoever. It was free for all. You can do what you wanted. And they just started conversations this month on what they're going to do for regulations. So it's up in the air. We don't know. Orem, Utah has been up in the air for about a year now. We've gone to city council meetings and all of those things. So everything is up in the air. Most cities are willing to make it legal somehow for you. It's just a matter
mhm.
of being in the know and being one of the first to act on getting some of those legal units. A lot of them will cap their number of licenses that they give and
I
etc.
see.
So just being in the know or knowing someone in the know.
Absolutely. Well, that's where working with someone like you really will be extremely beneficial because I know you and I were talking a little bit before the webinar, about your management company and, everything that, I mean, you've been in the thick of it and you've been in it for years. So you
Yes.
really know how to you know dodge your way through everything that could come at you in the short-term rental landscape, possibly. So that's amazing. That's super important because on the national aspect, just from several different markets, you don't know how many times that I hear, "Oh, I was working with my agent over here, but yeah, they were a residential real estate agent
Mhm.
and really didn't understand quite what I was looking for or quite how to calculate the returns that I should expect. Or, even if it was legal for me to operate in a specific neighborhood that I was looking. So that's something I tell them all the time. Hey guys, our agents are specifically short term rental agents. And, they know how to navigate the market. And that's what they specialize in. That's what we do as a whole. So it's really good to express that in a market like yours, especially where it's something that's so very important to have someone that is on top of the game and knows exactly what they're doing.
Mhm.
Because we know regulations can change quick.
Yeah.
Let's see.
On top of that, too, I see agents all the time that are normal residential agents posting their listings that it's a family friend who owns a short term rental that's operating illegally and now they're trying to sell it as a short term
Right.
rental. I see it all the time, all the time.
Mm,
So, because there is a toggle button you can search for short term rentals in Utah. And so
okay.
I look there frequently, but most, like 80% of the time, it's not accurate. So,
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's kind of touch on pricing and inventory a little bit with, all the aforementioned in consideration. What would you say is, actually available right now? What does inventory look like across the most popular Utah markets that you work within?
Yeah. So, for legal short-term rentals, it's pretty thin, but it's at least a couple a month that pop up that are very decent options.
Okay.
Um, so when I send out properties to my buyers, they've already been pre-vetted, they're legal, they can operate, and they need to be acted on quickly. So it's not like I send out a lot of properties because 98% of them don't work.
Right.
Um, but because it's summer or almost summer, spring, it's picking up quite a bit. There
Nice.
are lots of things coming on the market, whereas winter, it shuts down quite a lot. So things are starting to pick up. There's more inventory in the past couple weeks than I've had in a while. So things are moving. Price point in northern Utah, it just depends. Salt Lake City condos, you can get, I had two go under contract this week for around 380,000.
Oh, wow.
So really, you can be creative with any price point that you have because there's also a lot on the market where sellers are allowing creative finance deals is very common.
Nice. That is good to hear. I actually just had someone ask me about creative financing today, which, surprisingly enough, I don't hear a ton of, but some here and there, just excuse me, specifically asking for that.
Mm.
Yeah, I do make that mention because I did take note of that in the Utah markets. But let's see. So I know that, kind of as you mentioned, not every property really qualifies or makes sense as an STR, especially from a legality standpoint. But as outside of the legal standpoint, what would you say makes most sense just from a property avatar standpoint of what makes a good short-term rental investment within that legal realm as well?
Yeah. So I think within the legal realm, what makes a good short-term rental investment from the investor side, or are you talking from the guest side?
From the investor side, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, what drives, repeat, renters, things that, things that investors really wanna make sure they're kinda honing in on
For
to,
sure.
have a, well-performing property.
Yeah. So what investors should know about Utah that works. We're one of the top in the country for appreciation. So
Nice.
while a lot of investors, break even or make very little here, depending on their financial situation, they're happy because they're building up wealth. If they just hold it for many years, it's worth it. Whereas that is not always the case in each state. So that would be a big one, as well as Utah is growing continuously. The amount of developments that are happening here are crazy to people. I had one investor come here from New York that was like, "What's wrong? Like, why is there so much construction here?" That's normal. There's a lot
Yeah,
being built continuously. There's events that attract people year round that are not going to stop. Like the Olympics, for example, is coming. We're set to have a Major League Baseball team that's in the talks right now. We just got an NHL club. There's big developments in the city itself to appeal to those. There's Olympic events are scheduled to happen in downtown Salt Lake City. They're building ramps in what is now a parking lot to
oh,
host
wow.
those Olympic events. So just the growth, it's not something that they would need to worry about um, not having any drivers
Mhm.
there. So appreciation, constant demand are probably the two biggest things. So I get a lot of people who are looking, one, for a tax break, and two, if they want to buy and hold a property for a long time and have it build. This is a
Yeah,
good spot for that.
it sounds like it. Okay. Well, I know this is gonna vary widely, more than likely, but just kind of a, generality, I guess. What type of revenue ranges are you, seeing from on average from STRs in the different Utah markets? And
Um,
if you wanna break that down, that's fine, just kinda curious overall.
yeah. Well, good grief. There's people operating in all realms of revenue. What I think you could expect, and maybe this is where we show the case studies, Lou,
Yeah.
would be so typical investment in Utah is looking between 10 and 15%. If you are, or cash on cash return on investment. So if you are performing higher than that, you're in the top. That's that is considered a decent investment right now, is between 10 and 15% cash on cash. So if people come to me and they're like, I want 25% cash on cash, it's not going to happen here. That's not this market. It's very different. So um, when those slides come up, I'll explain and kind of go through some examples.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just sent a message also since we're just kind of in a conversational flow. There we go.
Okay,
Awesome.
so for example, this is southern Utah. This is one of my favorite little pockets. To be honest, if you're on here, it's the only pocket that will actually produce in southern Utah. And it's on the east side of Zion National Park. It's kind of off the well trodden path.
Okay.
Um, the regulations are very friendly there. The homes are unique and the money is there. So this one is in Glendale. We helped a buyer buy this last year in November. They needed a tax break. To my knowledge, I don't believe the seller has actually been to this property yet. She's owned it
Oh, wow.
for 6 months, and I don't think she's physically been there, but she has been able to manage it herself.
Nice.
Because a lot of these are turnkey. This one was turnkey. Her gross ROI, like these are hard numbers, what it was sold for and what it earned the year she sold, bought it. And so this would be considered a high performing investment in Utah. Um, Down this pocket in the same area, this is where I get a lot of my properties. This is probably right now in Utah the highest producing pocket, and it's very small. It's a very small pocket.
Yeah.
So this would be considered a super well performing high end one. And then the next slide,
It's a
Lou.
very nice looking property.
Yeah, it's got a casita and a stargazing dome. They're just more unique. This is kind of the glamping lifestyle in southern Utah.
Hmm.
This one is in Draper. So you can see the mountain off in the, like, that's where the ski
Oh,
hills are.
gorgeous.
So it's just a little bit different here. It's still between that 10 and 15%, and it will appreciate like crazy because it's next to an LDS temple, which also increases the property appreciation immensely. And then
Nice.
it's right smack in the middle of all the things to do. So this would also be considered a very decent investment as well. One thing to note, and it's probably this way for every state, but it takes about 3 to 6 months for you to get the ball moving and to have to stop putting money into your property and it'll start running and actually producing. Uh, that's kind of normal for
Mhm.
any market, but this one is well on its way to doing that. And then I think I have one more. Oh, none of the pictures changed. That's funny.
Oh, good.
Hmm, that's okay. This one's in Orem. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't translate over. That's okay. So this
Mhm.
one was also purchased turnkey in Orem. The legalities are up in the air at the moment. But the gross ROI on this one is projected to be about 16% this year. So that's kind of the realm that you're looking at as far as the cash flow and return on investment goes. So, Lou, you can go to that last slide. What's important to know about Utah is the total picture of not just, oh, can I cash flow a ton amount? It's the whole picture. Um, Pull out. I don't know if she's pulling that up.
There we go.
There we
Okay.
are. So when you're stacking 3 to 6 annual appreciation in Salt Lake City on top of a 10 to 15% gross ROI, and then you're applying all the four quadrants. So you've got your principal pay down, tax advantages, the debt pay down. I can't remember all four of them. The cash on cash, debt pay down. tax benefit, and there's one other one. But this becomes it's a safe place to invest in that front,
Mhm.
meaning your money's constantly working for you. So it's still a strong performing asset, even though we're not hitting like the 20 to 25 cash on cash that like North Carolina would be doing.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. Well, that looks good. And so, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but the performance numbers, how drastically would you say they vary between, you know, Salt Lake City, Draper, and the other markets you work in?
yeah. So because of what's allowed to operate, Salt
Mhm.
Lake City is a very particular, it's like a business type of avatar. And the
Okay.
highest you probably are going to get ever in Salt Lake City is like 87,000
Okay.
annual.
Mhm.
Whereas if you just hop over closer to the mountains in Sandy, Utah, depending on the property, you can get up to 250,000 a year. Draper is
Gotcha.
kind of coming up on that where it's like almost 200,000 a year. So it's just different because of the type of property you can get. The bigger the
Okay.
property, the better it performs here.
Sounds
Just
good.
because people come in packs and we have tons of families that gather. So
Yeah.
those 5 plus bedrooms always perform better. Um, so it just depends on per city, but
Okay.
there you go.
All right. Well, let's see. And let's just kind of touch on this too. So, I'm sure you've seen all different types of property avatars, between owning yourself, you and your husband, and, between management. But when you look at the STRs that are really crushing it in Utah, what are they doing differently? Like, as far as just amenities, design, just, selling the experience, like how do those different markets, kind of represent that? Like, what is the most important thing, would you say, um, within the different markets to really
Yeah.
drive that top percentage of, being in that top percent?
In that top percent, it's all about odd things. In northern Utah specifically, we were talking fully stocked kitchens with fun, crazy slushy makers and like
Oh, nice.
people are coming to cook, so have like a gourmet kitchen, big open spaces, and those are the biggest drivers. A yard space that's a gathering space. Those, if you have like the base that people are looking for, perform the best. And then those who get even more creative have kind of what I call the savvy way, is they go all out on amenities. They have the crazy hero image. They, you know, put a lot into the design using LED lighting and murals and all of those things. But not a lot of people in northern Utah are doing that. So the
Gotcha.
ones that are performing super, super well. I have a really good friend of mine who bought a house in Draper and they totally flipped it into this amazing place where they converted the garage into an arcade, but it's like a VR arcade. So they have
Oh, wow.
roller coaster ride and the big things, and it's getting 1,000 a night. And when their mortgage on it is like 4,000, it does pretty well for itself. So
Yeah, hand
the
over
ones who are
fist, it
doing it
sounds like.
right are the ones who are probably in this room and talking with savvy to know how to do it. And in northern Utah, there's not a lot of them. There's a couple in Park City, but that market is tough.
Mhm.
Uh, but in southern Utah, it gets a little bit harder. So the little pocket that I talked about on the east of Zion, it's easier to do there because you have more creativity, you have more land, you're less restricted in your amenities. So those are performing super well because mainly because of the views and location, but the houses there are creative. There's one on market right now that is 2 luxury A-frames that overlook the valley. It's stunning. But on the other side of Zion, where most people think to go invest would be St. George, Hurricane, Laverton, Tokerville, Ivins, all of those places that most people approach me about, it's
Mhm.
way harder to make it. I don't think I've ever made a property be able to pencil there, because the legalities have forced everybody into these resort style townhomes and developments that
Mhm.
all have the same amenities, you're competing with 80 of your identical neighbors. It's
Oof.
really, really, really hard to stand out. Single family homes are not allowed to run there unless
Mm,
they were running before they made licensure. So, like, you can buy a house that has the license on it.
nice.
That's the only way. All of them have been sunsetted and they will not offer anymore. So, you've got these resort type of places with really cool amenities. They're amazing. But again, there's like 80 of them in a development. And they
Right.
also, a lot of them require you to use their in-house management company, which is at like 30 to 35%, which is insanely
Wow.
high.
That
So it's
is.
really hard to make those ones work. So the ones that are working are in that pocket that I mentioned earlier.
Gotcha. And that's really what makes it important to work with, an expert such as yourself, because, one of the things, kind of as you mentioned earlier, like, folks may see a property, oh, this is a performing STR. When you get into the details of it, it may not be legal. It may end up costing you in fines. And then you've purchased a property that, can't function for the reason that you wanted it to. And, there's just so many different nuances, especially from township to township. So it's really important to have somebody on your team, folks, that really knows what they're doing, how to navigate that. I can't stress that enough to people that I talk to, multiple times on a daily basis. It's very, very important to have that expert knowledge on your side. So
Absolutely. In Utah, that might be the moral of the story. If you want to
exactly,
be in
right.
Utah, don't just go buy in Utah. There are so many hoops and different things that you need to know about. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Um,
government red
let's
tape.
right. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Here's a kind of a generalized question. Given everything, the regulations, inventory constraints, and performance data, where do you see the biggest opportunity being right now for an investor looking to intro into one of the Utah markets?
Yeah, so I think a huge opportunity right now is downtown Salt Lake City if you can find one of those coveted legal zones.
Okay.
So it's commercial zones with an HOA that allows short-term rental. There's a couple of them. Um, a lot of people don't like that idea because they are townhomes or condos, but
Hmm.
when that's all that's available and the demand skyrockets and everybody else has been shut down. I think that is a huge opportunity right now, as well as that little southern Utah pocket that I mentioned. That one, eventually, the investors are going to catch on, but you might as well be one of the first because
Exactly.
it's it, it's starting. It's starting, and it'll only get bigger from there. So those are the two areas that I see the most opportunity in.
Okay. Well, very good to know. Um, okay. And here's a good one, I think, to kind of taper towards the end of our conversation today. Um, w- what are mistakes you see investors make when they come into your markets without the right guidance?
Um, yeah, mistakes. They lose a lot of money if they do it incorrectly because they get shut down right away and then they have to sell and the whole thing was a bust. So that would be a big mistake, number one. Um, that would be it. Also, if they are going to purchase in northern Utah specifically, I would advise that they find something that works as a legal short-term rental, but also the exit plan being that it would still make a very decent midterm to long-term rental, which there are lots of those. Southern Utah, that's not the case, but northern Utah it is. So
Okay.
that would be my advice coming into northern Utah is one, know the regulations
Mhm.
find someone who does. And yeah,
Yeah. That's
that
like you
would be
said,
it.
that's the moral of today's
That's
story.
the moral of
Seriously.
the story. Yeah.
All right. Well, Rachel, this was incredibly helpful, especially for anyone who's been intimidated, I think, by Utah's regulatory complexity.
Yeah.
Um,
I
this
think
is
that
exactly the kind of, sorry,
that
go ahead.
I'll add on to that, sorry,
Yeah,
and
no, you go ahead.
you kinda have to come into Utah with more of a risk tolerance than you would in other places. Meaning, risk tolerance meaning like, okay, the government regulations are kind of crazy. They could up and change one day. If they do, I have a good backup plan in my midterm to long-term rental, or I can sell it at that time and it would still make sense. So the
Gotcha.
risk tolerance, you, if you are looking to come to Utah and you want someone to swear an oath that this property will forever be legal to run as a short-term rental, it probably isn't the place for you. Um,
Right.
so we operate within the laws that we have right now. Things change, we can't promise, but you can prepare for in case that does happen, this will still work, you know,
Gotcha.
in that regard.
Okay. All right. Well, I would definitely like to open it up to questions now. If anybody has any additional questions, Gary, I do want you to know that I'm looking at your question right now, so it's not being ignored. Um, Honestly, Gary, after we have folks register for these webinars, the next day generally they'll become available on our YouTube channel. And if you registered, you provided your email in that registration, you will be sent a notification once this webinar is uploaded to our YouTube channel. So you can just click on it from there. You'll have access to it, and it will forever live on Savvy STR Agents YouTube. So um, just to let you know that. And yeah, if anybody else has any questions, we'd love to hear them right now. Um, but yeah, I was going to say, thanks, to everybody who joined us today. If you're watching this and Utah is on your radar or you're not sure if it should be, that's exactly what our market match call is for. It's just a quick conversation where I or Morgan, someone in my department, will help work through your buy box, figure out what makes the most sense for you on your investment decision, whether it be your first or your 10th in your portfolio. We work you through all that and discuss the markets with you, and would love to discuss Rachel's market in Utah, or I should say Rachel's vast coverage. She covers so much in Utah. So we could talk to you about that. And yeah, just get clear on your goals, compare different markets side by side, and figure out whether a market like Utah actually fits your strategy. So we would love to do that. I'm going to go ahead and post a link to the market match call there in our public chat, so you can click on that if you'd like. Um, and yeah, I think that's got it from my side. Is there any notes you want to leave on today, Rachel, personally, or
No, I think,
I think I pretty much got it all wrapped up
yeah,
there.
just to repeat on anything we've already said. So that would be it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for hopping on with me. And again, anybody, if you missed this, you can catch it on our YouTube channel. Probably tomorrow, Savvy STR Agents on YouTube. And hop on a market match call with us to get connected with Rachel or any of our other great experts in their respective markets, guys. Thanks so much. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Rachel, thanks so much. It was a pleasure having you today.
Thank you
And
so
we'll
much.
talk. You're welcome. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.